Hello, welcome everyone to Leadership Advancement Mentorship Podcast, where we bring leaders to you. In this podcast, we like to highlight the leaders' awareness, their development journey, and how mentorship has impacted their leadership. With me today is the Impact Dr. Amanda Farag, a Maxwell Leadership Certified Speaker, Coach, and Trainer. Welcome, Dr. Amanda. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Wow, we're so excited to see you today, and it's such a great time. I've been working on getting you right here and to be on this podcast. And who is Dr. Amanda? Tell us about yourself. Yeah.
So I'm a physician. The doctor comes from being a physician. But a little bit about what brought me to that. I'm an only child, so no
Ooh.
siblings. Yeah. I'm sure that says a lot about me right there. I'm also a first generation Egyptian American, so I'm
Mm,
bicultural, bilingual. My parents came
mm,
here from Egypt. And so those two things really shaped me as a person
mm,
because I don't have siblings, and most of my family was an ocean away. So I had a very, very close relationship with my parents, and that'll definitely play into what we talk about with leadership and what I saw.
mm,
And I became a physician because my father has a progressive form of multiple sclerosis. So I really had a front
mm,
row seat to that journey. And that
mm,
led me to want to become a physician myself so I could take care of patients like my dad.
mm,
So that's a
mm.
little about me.
Wow. That's awesome. Physician talking to a physician.
Yes, physician to physician.
My journey into becoming a physician was more of a heart to help people. And I mean, from a little child, I like to help people, and that's why I end up in medical school. And when I got to medical school, I just found that my passion to help goes beyond the white coat. And
So
in a way,
true.
I was still able to finish and I practiced and for 3 years. And when I came to United States, I knew I'm not going to go that direction. And because I found something, I realized my passion is actually leadership. And actually been passionate about leadership all through my med school. I'm a kind of person in which, and when we have a break from word round, we waiting for our consultants. I'll be reading Zig Ziglar.
There you go.
And my colleagues was like, "Oh, you're not serious," and but they know I'm serious now. Well, they reading my books now.
There you go. Full circle.
They listen to this podcast now, and they see, or they attending the conference that we're doing. I mean, it's like the most important thing is life is just to find yourself. So that brings me to the first question about leadership, because what brought you here today is not because you are a physician, it's because you are the impact doctor. You are impacting life beyond the white coat. So
Mhm.
I want to focus on your leadership awareness. So tell us, at what time in your life did you become aware of your leadership potential? At what point?
So I would say it actually at a pretty young age. My mom had this unique, so I'm a person of faith, and my mom had this unique tradition with me that started, I think I
Mm,
was in kindergarten, all the way through. I
mm,
asked her to continue into university and med school doing this. So she would
mm,
sit with me the night before the first day of school, and she
mm,
would say something really radical for Egyptian parents. She would say, "You're about to start a school year, but your
mm,
number one goal is not your education." Now, I was a good student. I did well in school, but she would
mm,
emphasize that you are there to be salt and light. You're essentially going into like a mission field of sorts. And so
mm,
she would remind me that my purpose, whether I was in first grade, sixth grade, ninth grade, going into college or med school, that it was
mm,
about the people that I was there to serve and add value and be a light and love. And she would tell me, there's no coincidence whose locker is next to you at school, who's with you in
mm,
science class, debate team, choir, etc. Every
mm,
single person is put into your life for a purpose. And so
mm,
that's your number one reason for school. And then you do your best at school and you're excellent. That's number two. And so,
mm,
because we did that every single year, the night before the first day of school, from kindergarten on, I think I just went into being a student all the way to being a physician with a leadership mindset. And
mm,
leaders, first and foremost, it's not about title or position, as you know, it's all about being of service and adding value to others in every
mm,
situation that you are. And so
mm.
I was taught about what it meant to influence others, to love others, to serve and add value. Not saying I did it perfect a lot of the times, I messed
Yeah.
up. But that mindset was put into me at that young age where she would sit with me, we would talk, we'd read a passage of the Bible, and we'd pray together every night before the first day of school. And so by the time I went to college and medical school and then started my career, that was just a part of how I saw my life, whether in
Mm,
medicine or outside of medicine, that continues. So it started young and then it just kind of grew as I
mm,
realized what my gifts were and how I could use them to serve and add
mm.
value. So yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. What you're talking about now reminds me of I'm working on a book right now, and the book I'm working on is on personal leadership. And in that book, I bring about 10 pillars of personal leadership. And because for a long time, I've been reflecting on so how can we have a model in which everyone in this world can say, okay, because most of the time there's a leadership crisis. People they want to be a leader, and they can even lead themselves. Because if you can't lead yourself, how can you lead others? So the title of the book is Leader, Lead Yourself, and the subtitle is Unlocking Your Power with Personal Leadership. So I believe if you can, because that's what your mom is teaching you, that making you to be aware that you not just going there as a student, you going there as a salt and as a light, and
Yeah.
make creating that awareness in you to see that there's a responsibility attached to being with other students. So now that you became aware of that, your mom helped you to be aware of that early. At what time did you started developing your the leader within you intentionally? At what point did you become more intentional that, oh, now that I know that I have this leadership potential? At what point in your life did you accept the responsibility for your leadership development?
So again, fairly young. I think what I said with my mom helped fuel it, but to actually step into it, I would say definitely by middle school, high school, I was
Mm,
um again, faith was a big part of my life. I decided I wanted to start a faith club in a public high school just so
mm,
that I could encourage other people. And that took a lot of courage in that type of environment to do.
mm,
I was the editor of the school newspaper. I was on student government. Just a lot of different roles that I wanted to develop leadership in different areas. And those
mm.
are areas that really grew me, like being the editor of a school paper helps you work on writing and editing, or being in
Yeah.
debate team or public speaking, public
Mm,
competitive public speaking, or just different student government in the school choir. So all of these are different areas in which you lead. And so I sort of did all of that in different ways in high school. And then in college, a lot of my time, well, I was studying a lot, obviously, but outside of that, just building community. There started a women's Bible study, was told, no, we don't do that here. And then I did it, and I couldn't find a room big enough for the
mm,
women that were
mm,
responding. And I think what I learned over time with leadership is authenticity is key. So if you
mm,
show up as your real person, I think a lot of things that grew that I would lead had nothing, it wasn't me. It was that I showed up as who I really was and I saw a
mm,
need and I'm like, I want to meet this need because I have this need. I'm not
mm,
I'm not just here because I figured it out. I'm saying I have a need and I want to out of that need help serve others and add value to others.
mm,
And that continued through medicine and through other things that I did where I would see a need and then I want to meet that need. And so I'm going to harness the gifts God's given me to meet those needs. So if
mm,
I'm really good at being a communicator, I want to use that need. If I'm really good at advocating for patients with disabilities, I'm going to use that. And
Mm.
a lot of that comes from personal experience, right? We have certain gifts and abilities and life experiences, and then we
Yeah.
can use them and harness them
Mm.
in service of others. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Mm.
think every season just had a different way of growing as a leader and
Mm.
realizing it wasn't about a title. It wasn't about
Mm.
saying, oh, you're the president of this or the head of this. It's really about
Mm.
how can I, where I am right now, be of service to others. Now, I
Mm.
made a lot of mistakes. Made a lot of
Mm.
mistakes. I
Yep.
have a lot of room for growth, but at least I was able to see that I grew in certain areas, and I'm still growing today, of course. I think
Yeah.
we never
Yeah.
stop
Exactly. So what I keep on hearing from you is service, which is the heart of leadership. And yeah, but you started wearing all these kind of hats, finding way to serve people, add value to people, make a difference as a salt and light. And but there's a part of what I want to really dive into based on this leadership conversation. I mean, I'm talking about investment in your leadership development. Yeah. So, because you can give what you don't have.
growing.
So what does that look like for you? What kind of investment have you made towards your development? Because in this podcast, we want people to be aware that nothing just happen. Things happen just and growth is not automatic. It has to be intentional. It's not accidental. So how was your investment like? What investment did you make in yourself to become the leader that others will like to follow today?
So I think the most recent was joining the John Maxwell team, becoming a
Mm.
certified trainer coach.
Mm.
Joining mentorship was just that next level of getting guidance. Like, okay, if I want to grow as a speaker, I'm going to
Mm.
learn from mentors that are great at this and can really hone and
Mm.
sharpen what I
Mm.
do because I want to grow in this area. You could have an ability somewhere, but if you don't put intentional growth and trying to seek a mentor like we
Yeah.
have in the team,
Mm.
it's next level. So I, wanted to be on stage for stage time. I didn't think it was actually going to happen when it
Mm.
did, but it happens when you put a story out there and you get feedback and it's like, nope, this isn't it. Let's try again. Try to find
Mm.
something like this. Here's how to be more something our mentor Roddy always tells me is you have to be more conversational. He gives you all this feedback and that's how you grow in that area as a communicator. Um,
Mm.
I grew in different areas in my personal growth, whether it was an area, for example, in medicine. A lot of what we do is we're constantly learning from who's above us, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't just looking to learn skills. Of course, you have to learn skills in medicine, but it's also how do I lead a team better? You
Mm.
see things modeled in medicine, you see it done well, and you've probably seen it done not so well as well. So
Yeah.
you're like, okay, how does this person lead this team so well? How do they get people on board with them? How do they get them
Mm.
communicating better and collaborating better? How do you get them understanding the patients better so we can get better outcomes? So you see a lot of things modeled so that you can then follow follow what they're doing. And so
Mm.
asking questions, hey, I noticed that you were able to do XYZ and you did
Mm.
really well. Could you explain that and break it down for me so I can then do better in this
Mm.
area? You have to be very intentional about it. I don't think it happens happenstance. You have to seek
Mm.
people out and say, hey, I see you do well
Mm.
in this. Could you help teach me or show
Mm.
me how I can do this as well as you are? And then be willing to hear the criticism, which is sometimes hard for me and my personality type, but hear it and say, okay, Amanda, you can do better by doing it this way instead of this way. So I think
Mm.
every area of life requires mentorship, whether it's your career, your personal growth, emotional
Mm.
growth,
Yeah.
etc. And you have to be willing to make changes constantly so you can make that growth. So
Wow.
mentorship in every area.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. But there's something that was showing up in what you're saying right now. I picked that, and that was curiosity.
Hmm.
I saw that curiosity because someone said curiosity is the wick in the candle of learning.
Mm,
Like if you look at the candle, it has a wick. You understand what I'm saying? Curiosity is that wick because without the wick, you can put a match on and the candle can come alive.
yep.
So that curiosity in you, because you can observe something, But if you don't follow it with questions, and the answers you don't get is because you don't ask questions. So, and Dr. John Maxwell wrote the book, Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. You started asking great questions. It's part of the skill set, because there's something called CQ, curiosity quotient,
Mhm.
and they found that that's when you talk about IQ, you can easily increase your CQ than IQ. And this is so important in learning. Yeah. So now you begin to you dive into the Maxwell leadership, and then that was a level of investment. And after certification, you move into mentorship. And but I want to highlight something. Have you ever done any investment into your leadership development before that time, so that in case we're speaking to someone that say, well, I'm not in Maxwell leadership, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but is there any way for me to invest in my leadership? So what is your word for someone that is out there that, well, I can afford this, I'm not there yet, I remember there was a time, and I run a group called Thinkers Island, and more than 250 people are on that platform. I share quotes every day. I share a minimum of 5 quotes. Like today, and I share 9 inspiring quotes. Yeah. So, and one of the person that was recommended to join the team. So I was about to have a masterclass. So I just sent it's to the link to him, directly. And when he clicked, he said, "Oh, I can afford this." I mean, when he saw the amount in his local currency, it's like, "Wow, I'm not here yet." I mean, what we talking about? Talking about $200. I'm not here. So if someone cannot afford to
No, that's
join
a
the
great
200
question.
class, how can you now go to a high level master leadership to now get certified? So the question is, how can you what's your word for someone that is out there that, oh, I am aware of my leadership potential, that how best can one, because our focus in this podcast is unlocking your
Mhm.
personal leadership. And I believe everyone can do that. So what as the impact doctor, someone that brings impact in your approach into what you do. So what would be your best advice for someone that's listening and watching right now, that how can I, and grow my leadership? How can I unlock my personal leadership?
That's a great question. And no, you don't have to spend lots of money to grow as a leader. I would say number one, books. So
Yeah.
a lot of I have my own kind of personal growth plan of what books I'm reading this year. And
Mm,
you could set up for yourself, like I'm going to read one book a month or whatever works for you. And the beauty is you can listen to books and read books. So
mm,
if it's hard to sit down and read a book, you could listen to books. So
mm,
I think that there is such a wealth of knowledge that you could get from whether you prefer to read or listen in leadership books. Obviously, a lot of John's books mean a lot to me because there's
mm,
such a breadth of them depending on
mm,
in what area you want to grow. So like this year, I started January with High Road Leader, and then Winning with People was in February, and then Developing the Leader Within You was March, and right now I'm on the 21 Laws of Leadership. So every month I'm in a different book. And then
mm,
there's, of course, there's always podcasts or any type of video, audio version. I
mm,
know a lot of people have commutes to go to work or to go here. Wonderful
mm,
time to grow as a leader and learn that way.
mm,
Some people
mm,
are readers, some people are listeners, some people are watchers. But in any capacity, there's always ways. And I think the best way to do it is to actually create a plan for yourself. Don't let
mm,
it be happenstance, like I'm going to read something eventually. Actually create almost like your own curriculum. Maybe it's the structure planner in me, but I make a plan because I want to plan to succeed. I don't want to just
mm,
leave it up to if I get around to it. This month I'm doing
mm,
this month I'm doing this month I'm doing this. So I
mm,
think with reading or learning or growing, I have made growth a priority for me, and
mm,
very little cost, the cost of a book, or even there's so many free resources online that you could listen to or watch. You can make
mm.
a plan for yourself and your personal growth, especially if you know where your growth gaps are. Focus on those areas. So if you know you
Yeah.
want to grow in a particular area in your communication, your relationships, whatever it is, then focus on those areas and then take
Mm,
action based on book, audio, whatever you're consuming. And then I think another way is seeking mentors in areas. So
mm,
if I want to grow in a particular area, I look for people in my life that I've seen succeed in that area, and I
Mm.
seek them out as mentors.
Yeah.
Um, and there, that can be a no cost situation. It's a place where they add value, and then look for ways to add value to them as well, so that it's
Mm.
a reciprocal relationship. But I
Mm.
think in every season of my life, I wish I did better at this younger. I think I had to build my confidence to ask people for it, but you realize that when you ask, oftentimes you get a yes. So why
Yeah.
not ask at least?
Mm.
And so I think mentoring someone who's even a few steps ahead of you, they don't have to be 100 steps ahead, but a few
Mm.
steps ahead of you can teach you so much in that area. So I think,
Mm.
again, making it a plan, like, hey, could we meet once a month or once,
Mm.
make it a scheduled thing, so
Mm.
that again, it's not, oh, maybe we'll meet once in a while. I hope it happens. Like, schedule it and make it a priority. And one of the things John says is, like, find the things you're going to do every day and try to do
Mm.
them every day. John does 5 things every day.
Yeah.
And so I've had to think recently, what are my 5 things that I want to do every day? They're different, right? They should be different for all of us. And I think the analogy he uses is, if you hit the axe against the tree 5 times a day,
Yeah.
eventually the
Yeah.
tree will fall. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how long it takes eventually. So, what are those 5 ways that you can do something every day? And sometimes you might spend a lot of time, sometimes you might spend only a few minutes, but if you work at it every day, if you put it as a part of your plan, then
Mm.
you're going to see growth in those areas. So for me, learning, growing, what I call consuming knowledge, it's something I want to do every day. Even if I only spend 10 minutes, sometimes I might spend a few hours, but every
Mm.
single day I'm growing. And you can do that
Mm.
for very low cost or no cost at
Mm.
all.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And I was just listening to you. I just love all these tips that you're sharing. And I like to tell people this way: start where you are, do what you can, and use what you have.
Mhm. Yeah,
And that's what you're just saying. Start
that's
where
it.
you are. Don't give any excuse that I can afford this, I can afford this. Listen, someone said knowledge is not free because you have to pay attention. And guess what? Jim Rohn said something. He said, time and attention are your most valuable resource. And a lot of people don't know. People say, I don't have money. Listen, the question is this: do you have time?
Mhm.
Do you have attention? So, what are you using your time for? What are you paying your attention to? So, start where you are. Do what you can, use what you have. You just light. You can start with books.
Yeah,
You
you
can
don't
start.
need to have a lot of money. You don't have to have a big budget.
Exactly.
I think
Yeah,
John said, change is inevitable, but growth is optional. It's optional
exactly.
because you have to be intentional. And I
Yeah.
wasn't always, especially when I was busy in my medical career, I was not as intentional about it. And I have a little bit more time now. But with whatever time you have, if you're like, there's an area, you have to focus. What's the area I want to grow in within leadership? And then
Mm,
find the resources in that area and almost create a schedule for yourself of, here's the things
mm.
I'm going to do to grow in that area.
Yeah, and that's really awesome. And this is I just like this kind of conversation we having because the world is full of people that just give excuse. And you remember, as a person of faith, there was a man that was at the pool of Bethesda that says, "I have no man," and he was there for 38 years. I mean, it's like I mean, your excuse are just what they are. What they are. They're just excuse.
Yeah.
So we just want to encourage you to realize that your personal growth is your personal responsibility, and there's so much opportunity in the world today for you to grow. In fact, I create a model called lamp, just to highlight what you just talked about. I actually learned this from Chris Robinson, but he didn't call it lamp. So I have a way of learning from great minds and now create an acronym alongside. So when Chris came to my podcast, I said, Chris, I stole something for you. I want to give it back to you. He said, come on, give it to me, give it to me. And I did. So what is it, lamp? Lamp just means number one, L, learning. And that learning is not just casual learning, it's in-depth learning. So that means if you want to succeed in any endeavor, your leadership, whatever, aspiration that you have, learning have to be in-depth learning. So learning, like you talk about, you can start from books, you can listen. I mean, you said some people are watchers, some people are readers, some people listen. I'm all of those. I watch, I listen, I read. I read 11 books every day. Yeah,
Wow.
I don't finish it. My primary book, I spent 30 minutes on it. Then I have 9 other books. I spent 10 minutes. That's the minimum on those books. Then one book, I read a chapter per day. That's a faith literature. Right now I'm reading something on Oral Robert, Expect a Miracle. As a person of faith, I grow my faith. I tell people there are 7 areas in which you need to grow. 7 areas. Your communication, your leadership, equipping, how to grow others, attitude, relationship, faith, and finance. Those 7 areas, they are critical for your success in life. So those are all the books that I read. They are just along that point. So we talk about that A, learning. Then the A is application. So it's not just learning. Find what you can apply. Better than knowledge is application. So learn a little bit, do a little bit. Find something you can put into practice. Because Dr. Amanda, I know that you do that a lot. I was just listening to you when you were talking about some things, and I've seen you live put those things to practice, and I was like, wow. And I realized that that's a leader that is taking action. So then the M is mentorship, which we actually talk about. So you need a mentor. So as you're learning, mentors give interpretation to the information that you have. You don't need mentors just for information. You need them for interpretation. So that is the power of mentorship. And then the P aspect talks about the peers. You need other peoples that are going towards the same direction that you're going. Just like me and Dr. Amanda's now, we are peers. We are, fellow warriors going towards the direction of impact. She's not the only impact doctor. There are so many of us, but she got it right.
I
So
just did a trademark.
tell us, how does this impact doctors come about in your leadership?
Sure. So, my
I'm gonna get to that.
my mission as the impact doctor is to help high achieving women. So not just physicians. Women is the heart of what I do, but of course, I want to serve all people, but specifically high achieving women who
Mm,
struggle with 3 things:
mm,
perfectionism, people pleasing, and self doubt, so that they can
mm,
own their worth and increase their impact. And I
mm,
say that because I think so. We as physicians, we look at things through through the lens of diagnosis, right? So when I
mm,
speak to people, I hear things as symptoms and then I try to figure out what's the underlying cause because that's what we're trained to do, right? As doctors.
mm,
And
mm,
so over the years, I've spoken to a lot of women in and outside of medicine. And
mm,
I'm speaking from personal experience. So, me as well. I consider myself a recovering perfectionist and a recovering people pleaser.
mm.
And I would continually realize, wait, it's not just me. Like, there's a lot of us that are struggling with this.
Yeah.
And that often is what prevents us from stepping into the impact that I believe we were created for.
Mm,
So, I think one of the ways, and so if I say those are the symptoms, perfectionism, people pleasing, self doubt,
mm,
I think the
mm,
underlying diagnosis is self worth. So when we
mm.
own our worth, when we say, you know what, my worth and value is secure, those things, they tend to go away. It's like you treat the diagnosis. You go in with a cough to the doctor. The doctor's job is not to get rid of the cough, it's to treat the cause of the cough, the diagnosis.
Mm,
The cough goes away. And so I'm always thinking, what's the underlying, like, current? What's the diagnosis? And I've
mm,
found in myself and in others that it's a lot of times that we tie our worth to other things. We tie our worth to our performance. We tie our
mm,
worth to what people think of us. We tie our worth to our position, our finances, our followers, all these other things. So when those things change, because they always will, right?
yeah.
Nothing is secure. Now we
Mm,
feel like our worth and value is affected. But that's not true
mm,
because your worth and
mm,
value is inherent. It's in who you are, it's who you were made to be. I just say that
mm,
as a person of faith. And I believe it's in how you serve, it's how you show up.
mm,
So it has nothing to do with what anyone thinks of you. It has nothing to
mm,
do with your role, your title, what you have, none of those things have anything to do
Mm,
with your worth. When you separate that, all of a sudden, wait, I can show up and I don't have to worry about being perfect, and I don't have to
mm,
worry about what people say.
yeah.
Something I'll talk about a lot at the conference will be about confidence. Well, where does that self-doubt come from? I'm worried about how I'm going to show up, or how am I going to be good enough? What are people going to think, etc. All of these things have
Mm,
worked in our minds for years and years and years, and then we don't step into the fullness of our impact. So my heart as the impact doctor is, I believe a world in which women own their worth is a world worth fighting for, because I
mm,
believe that our classrooms will look different, our boardrooms will look different, our courtrooms will
mm,
look different. Every room in which women enter will look different if we go in
mm,
bravely owning our worth and value and not worrying about being perfect or what people think of us or doubting
mm,
ourselves. Like, show up in the fullness of who I believe God made us to be. So that's
mm.
my mission.
Wow, that's awesome. Wow, that's a great one. I just love the way if I start to unpack this, we won't leave here today. I got
We'll have to
two
do part
questions.
two of the
Oh,
podcast.
we gonna do part two. We're gonna do part two and even part three too, because you got so much to really to learn from, and there's so much to learn from you. Now talk to us. What has been the impact of mentorship on your leadership?
I mean, it's everything. So I'll go back to your first question about just, I was sharing about my parents. So I shared a little bit about my mom. I think my mom and dad were my first mentors. And
Mm,
again, because I'm an only child, I really was close with I still am close with my parents. And
mm,
so they were two people that I watched talk the talk and walk the walk in their
mm.
careers, in all of their relationships. They were the
Are they also doctors?
so my dad is a pharmacist, my mom's an engineer. So
Oh, gotcha.
I took a little bit of a different path.
Yeah.
But I watched it play out in real life. And there's no mentorship quite like watching someone closely,
Yeah.
right? Like when you
Observation.
live
Yeah.
with them and you see, is this real, or what are they like when, no one's around? And they were very consistent. I watched them mentor mentor teenagers in our home, mentor young adults, mentor married couples and couples to be married. Our home was constantly filled with people that they were
Mm,
mentoring. And there were conversations that happened in our home that just, obviously, we were a vault. No one would ever know. But I just watched them in real time mentor. And then
mm,
because they knew I was hearing it, they would come and unpack it with me. So
mm,
everything was a constant learning opportunity. I was watching them mentor, and then they would come and mentor me.
mm,
So that was, I think, the greatest lesson on not just how to mentor in things of faith or things of work, but just in
mm.
real life. Like, how do
Yeah.
you deal with the real
Mm,
life stuff? How do you deal with betrayal? How do you deal with
mm.
financial loss? Like mentorship in all those areas you said, we
Yeah.
would have very real conversations about that.
Mm,
And I would ask, that's where curiosity, I think, started. I
yeah.
would ask questions constantly, and there was no question that was off limits.
Mm,
And so I think mentorship really started with that. And especially as I watched my dad's disease progress, he's now at a point where he's in a power wheelchair. But I watched that happen in
mm,
live time. I watched the cane to the walker to the scooter to the wheelchair to the power wheelchair. And I watched the grace with which he did that. And that was a
mm,
masterclass for me. I
mm,
watched how my mom handled it. I watched how he handled it. And
mm,
here's the thing I'll tell you, Michael. I never once saw my dad complain to this day.
mm,
Have never.
mm,
He has a million things he could complain. I complain about things. Never
mm,
seen him complain. He
mm,
lives an attitude of gratitude and of constant service to others. Even
mm.
if his needs increase, he's constantly thinking, how can I be of service to others?
Wow.
In every area of life to this
Mm,
day. He's
mm.
constantly thinking that. So people come to help him and serve him, and he's like, how can I help and serve you?
Wow.
That
Wow.
is the ultimate masterclass for me in
Wow.
leadership and in mentorship. So I feel beyond blessed to
That's great. Wow. And that's ultimate because at times not every not everyone get that at home. Most of the time people they don't have good models. They don't have good role models. I mean, for your parents to really model leadership, mentorship, is a great gift there is. And that is an inspiration to you to do the same for your children and for everyone around you. Wow, it's been a great time with you today. Okay, how can people find you? People have been listening to this beautiful doctor speaking leadership. They say, wow, I wish I know your clinic. I'll just pretend that I have headaches just to be with you. So
Um,
how can people find you? Yeah, how can people find you? Yeah.
So
And where can they find
my website is theimpactdoctor.com. So THE, have to put the impactdoctor.com. So that's the best way to reach me.
you?
I will have links to my social media there. Everything is still being formed right now. LinkedIn is the best way to reach me. My Facebook page will be launched soon.
Mm.
And then at that point, I'm going to start putting out little lessons of impact is my goal every week. Put a few lessons out there. So 30 seconds, a minute, you can get a quick encouragement. So definitely on my website, and then I'll have links to my social media as soon as they launch.
Wow. It's been a great time with you. This has been a time of impact. We've been talking about unlocking your personal leadership. And Dr. Amanda, we just want to say thank you for your time. And
Thank you for
you've
having me.
and it's been so refreshing. And I believe everyone that watched this podcast, they'll really be really inspired. Thank you. Until we come your way next time with another great guests speaking on leadership. Don't forget, it is not what we learn that changes us, it's what we do with what we learn that brings about the transformation. See ya next time with another leader. Thank you.